it's key to every business, no matter whether you have service-based or brick and mortar, but especially when you're a coach, growing that whole network of not just prospects, but it's referral partners, joint venture anybody that might help you to grow your business is key. Are you online networking? Are you running around town networking? Oh, and then you have to have those coffee chats, right? Let's connect and learn a little bit about each other. Who has time for that? Oh, and you got the speaking events. You're hoping you speak to a group, somebody else's audience, and you hope it turns into something. And then all those social media posts, between the posts, the reels, the stories, creating that content. Oh, I'm tired already. I don't know about you.
It's
Yeah,
exhausting just
I'm
thinking about it.
excited today because I have with me video strategist and my mentor, Sheryl Plouffe. If it wasn't for Sheryl, I wouldn't be here doing Make It Click. I am so excited. Sheryl, thank you so much for your process, your method, and the technology. I know when I was going through your course, I was like, "Give me more, give me more." I couldn't
Yeah.
wait I just wanna know the whole
You're such a
process.
great student. You're like a perfect student, right? And you actioned everything that I taught you, and here we are today. And I'm in the role of guest, which I'm honored to be in the role of guest, and to be on Make It Click is just an honor because you're right. I mean, you had been thinking about doing this for many years, and
Mhm.
I'm happy that I had a small part in helping you to get to the point where we're having this discussion because you're right. It's important to build a network. We certainly need to do that. But I think that there are antiquated ways, especially when it comes to technology, in which people are doing that. And I think that there's a better way.
Right, yeah, and when I was thinking about a podcast, I was also thinking, okay, Facebook Lives. We've been told for several years, especially since the big shutdown and everything, get on Facebook and do Facebook Lives, and it was always like, "Oh, what do I talk about? What do I do?" and everything. But when you explained your process, I was like, "Oh, it's brilliant." But first, let's start with the traditional podcast method. Why is that not such a great method anymore?
Well, it's not to say that there aren't people who have had a lot of success with a traditional audio podcast that they pre-produce, they hire teams to do it. But most of the people who are seeing massive success with that traditional podcast model have started it a long time ago. They kind of came in at the right time for that type of thing. And it's not to say that there aren't some people still who can build an audio only traditional podcast, but typically what they do is they put a lot of money behind it in terms of production through teams and such. And even that is like winning a lottery, right? So what our belief is that if you are going to start a podcast and you're only doing audio, first of all, I think that's the first mistake is we believe in video first. We believe in a video first to repurposing to audio so that you get the best of both worlds. So that's problem one that we see. But aside from that, the traditional audio podcast model is predicated on building an audience, right? It's only about building an audience, frankly, right? And it's a hope strategy because you hope people find it. You hope that people, listen to it. You hope your audience grows over the course of time. It is more of a long-term strategy to create a traditional podcast because it could take years to build an audience up to the point where you can bring in advertisers or sponsors who would pay enough to be able to really be it worth your while. So the problem sometimes becomes people start an audio only podcast. They're negating the video first and foremost. They're waiting 2 and 3 years and they're publishing content consistently for 2 and 3 years. And at the end of that road, they have a sponsor who comes along who says, yeah, okay, great. Here's $100 for my sponsorship of your episode on whatever. It's like, well, $100 isn't going to cut it if you want to be profitable and if you're looking to build a business around that model. So the idea here is that profitability, we need to rethink the definition of that as it pertains to podcasting.
Well, and I think too with the traditional audio only, whether if you're doing it just as a, well, I say a monologue that you're just putting content out,
Right.
that is really difficult. But some people say, well, I'm going to do the interview, I'm going to bring guests on and they're going to help me build my audience. And that's just a lot of here in our world, people talking about JVing and, oh, well, that one didn't work out. You're depending on your guest to bring their audience, and your guest is depending on you to bring the audience, and that's not a win-win situation,
Well, okay, so let's go back to what you said about the solo episodes. Certainly, even in our model, while it is the concept of it is to leverage the audience of other people that you would bring on as guests.
Mhm,
So our belief is that doing a talk show interview format podcast is a great way to leverage other people's audiences, especially if you do the things that we teach, which is how to conduct a five-star interview, how to, structure your podcast episodes properly, give your guest a great experience. They're more likely to want to share that content with their networks and even their email lists, private and public lists, to be able to get your message out. Now, you're obviously going to be in front of all of those people without it costing you anything. So, but that's not to say that you couldn't or shouldn't also do, a solo episode from time to time.
mhm,
So, what I like to say is that if you're going to be using the profitable podcast method as a way to organically market yourself and create your own platform, certainly you can go to, let's say you go to a conference and you're just so inspired by the speaker. You could just squirrel yourself away to some corner of the conference, hall and record something on your phone to your podcast as just like a in the moment,
mhm,
hey, I'm so inspired. But know that when you do those solo episodes, you're not able to leverage anyone else's audience because there isn't any guest. There is no guest. That's perfectly fine as long as you know going into it that, okay, this is just me expressing my ideas and my thoughts to my audience. But the real profitability piece comes in because where you bring in guests because you're leveraging their audiences. You're also building relationships with those people, and it's leading to one of well, maybe all of these three things, but referrals, clients, and speaking engagements. And that is our definition of profitability. So profitable podcasting means generating clients, referrals, and speaking engagements by virtue of you having your own platform where you invite guests on your show.
yeah, and I love having my own show. It's, it's my
Yes.
platform. I love that. Now your program is geared towards coaches, but would you say it's beneficial for many different types of business owners?
I think it's I think it's great for people who are selling, say selling, but they're building a business around their products and services that are in the knowledge industry, right? They're packaging their own expertise into courses, programs, coaching, consulting, masterminds, memberships, that sort of thing. I think
Mhm,
a podcast in that space, it really makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's quite maybe as good for people who are selling, say, physical products per se, like in e-commerce. I
mhm.
think it could work. I think it could work, but there does still need to be a layer of um, authority building in a space. I think that's where the podcast model really works best. People who are looking to position themselves as authorities in a specific area or niche. So for example, for you with Make It Click, right, this is about productivity, it's
Mhm.
about technology and making things click, making things work. So you want to be known in that space. That makes a lot of sense. But if you are someone who is, let's say, running I don't know, you're selling e-commerce widgets on Instagram or something like that, and you don't really care to be known as an authority in, you know, selling pens or whatever,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Then maybe it isn't quite as good of a fit. So I think it's perfect for people who want to be seen as authorities, as leaders, as experts in their own niche.
Right. But now just to put the profitable podcast concept aside, just say talk about video.
Mhm.
If you're at least doing video, you're getting that wider audience. I mean, like right now, we're streaming to all of my social media channels.
And mine
And
too, because I
and
set mine up. So we're broadcasting to all of my networks, all of your networks in real time.
yeah, yeah.
It's so cool.
So it's the technology, it should just be used by everybody. I it
Well, you mentioned something earlier. I just want to dig on a little bit because you said, we've been told we have to do Facebook Lives. And you know what? There was a time when, yes, Facebook Live was the thing. And I'm not against Facebook Live. I'm streaming this interview to my Facebook Live, and I think you're streaming this to Facebook
Yep.
as well. Where I think that we want to really think about efficiencies, and I know you're all about productivity too, is that why not use tools that allow you to do the work once
Mm,
and then put that out not only on Facebook, but on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on your YouTube channel, in your Facebook group, your profile, your page, like all of these things at the same time.
mhm,
These tools didn't really exist for you and I publicly, kind of, they've existed for some time, but they were usually relegated to like high-end enterprise. They weren't like available to everybody until,
mhm,
just the last many years is kind of when it came on the scene. And so now we have the avail to use these technologies to get our message out and have that omnipresence, which is the state of constantly being encountered. And that's a key piece of this equation is you want omnipresence
mhm.
to the most of your ability, because you want to get your message out to more people. You want to be seen and heard by more people.
Right, and I love that I'm actually building my YouTube channel as we speak with these videos.
Nice.
It's there when I'm done. And we all know YouTube, so many people are going there to search for answers to their problems. So that's
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Um, so
Can I say
and
one
now we're
can I say one thing about YouTube real quick though? I think that with podcasting in this nature, like where we're doing a long form interview, and yes, streaming this to my YouTube, streaming this to your YouTube, I do want to preface by saying that there is so much more to YouTube. It is an
Mhm,
animal unto itself, and that in terms of a YouTube growth strategy, right, there's more to do than just simply streaming into your YouTube channel. I say still do it. If you have a channel, you definitely want to action that and do that, but
mhm,
there are some other steps that you would need to do to grow a YouTube channel. I
mhm,
just want to be clear. I get a lot of questions about that. They go, "Oh, I'm just going to stream this in and I'm going to have a million people watching these videos." Not
mhm,
necessarily, but it saves you so much time and energy in terms of, the production of how do you
mhm,
get this content created and then put on your YouTube channel, and time is money, obviously. So I think there's a huge benefit, but I just wanted to temper those expectations. People think, oh, I'm just going to do interviews and then I'm going to have a million views on these videos on YouTube. Not
mhm,
necessarily. And here's the beautiful thing about it: you don't even need a million to be profitable under our methodology. It isn't about the views anyway.
mhm.
That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah, well, and I should have prefaced saying I'm not building my YouTube, I'm building my library in
That's right.
YouTube. I'm
Exactly.
building my library,
Yeah.
so if there's a particularly good interview that I want somebody to hear, I can give them that link. If we're not friends on Facebook or we're not connected on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
there's something that anybody can have access to.
And now you can go into because you've built that library on any channel, including YouTube. Now you're able to go in and you can siphon off or find clips or extract
Mhm,
curate short clips from your macro content, pull out micro content. So if we're
mhm,
talking about YouTube, you might want to use that and create YouTube shorts, for example, which is vertical video, short form vertical video on YouTube. So there's a lot of opportunity then when you've built your library.
yeah, yeah, now we've been talking a lot about the technical side of just producing the video. There are other pieces though, right? I mean, it's not just, "Oh, just get on Restream and, interview somebody." There are other steps to the whole method as I found out. I just want people to understand, it's not that simple. Um,
Right. There are steps, and that's why ours is built as a 3-month program to guide you through the steps of doing that. And just to break it down, how we attack it is we say in the first month is all about launching. So we help people launch their video and audio podcast, their profitable podcast in 30 days. So 30 days to get it launched, And then the second stage or phase is built on monetization. That's when we start building in automation, making sure systems are working properly so that you're not having to go and chase people down and do a lot of manual labor. It's about monetizing your products and services on your own show as well, right? So we're really focused and dialed in on monetization. The
Yeah.
third phase is the growth phase. This is when it's creating a waiting list of guests for your show. It's making this so that you're really set up to make this a sustainable process that you'll be able to rinse and repeat. And we're really proud to say that we have created this as a 1 hour per week podcast method. That once you're through, you'll be able to produce your podcast in an hour per week. So that's how we attack it. But it is, certainly it's just like anything though. There are parts of their pieces and parts of the formula that need to be pulled together in order to pull this off. But, we feel proud that, or I feel proud to have curated the technology to the point where it's as efficient as it can be, it's as affordable as it can be, so
Mhm.
that you are able to make this sustainable for the long term.
Yeah, and I like that it's a system. I love systems. There's, it's do this, and here's the next step. Here's the next step. Here's yeah, no, I love it. So, Cheryl, if our listeners would love to know more about your program, where can they find that?
If you go to profitablepodcastmethod.com, you will see that there is a 20-minute video there that I've produced that will explain the whole concept and how it works. So profitablepodcastmethod.com. And then from there, there's a video, you'll be able to understand better what it is that we're talking about. And then you have an opportunity to have a chat with me. If you do have a chat with me, tell me that you heard me on Make It Click. Tell me when you book that call with me that Christine sent you, because I would love to be able to know, right, where these connections are coming from in my network.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We all should be finding out how our people are coming to us. That's a huge piece of how we make our educated decisions in our businesses.
That's
So,
right.
Cheryl, I do have one last question for you, and I didn't share this with you before we started
Uh-oh.
here, but so we're all about making it click. When you think back to the stages of your business and building it up, is there something that comes to mind? Maybe it's something you learned. It could be a piece of technology or just something that you learned from a coach, or what one day you said, "Oh my goodness, this it made it click."
It's funny. I have you can't see it, but on my board behind me, I have some feedback from a coach that I worked with years ago, and she wrote, "Can I just look over here so I can read it to you?
Sure.
You could easily have a multi-million-dollar business with 40% more commitment and organization." She was right. Um, I don't have a multi-million-dollar business yet, but I keep this on my board as a reminder, right? That organization and commitment are key. It's really key to building anything, including a business. So I keep that there as a little bit of a reminder that at the time that that was written, I might not have been as committed or as organized. And so I made a concerted effort at that point to focus more on that. And we're doing, consistently, 20 plus K months now. And so like it, definitely works. It definitely works to get you more organized and committed, I think is a key piece. And you hinted at it earlier too about systems. And I think that's, she didn't write it on that note, but I think that's really what she was hinting at there too, was systems. And then, here we are, fast forward, and really everything that I'm teaching around profitable podcasting is in and of itself a system. So
Yeah.
it all makes sense in the end.
Oh, I love that, Cheryl. Oh my goodness, it just speaks to my heart. Organization and systems. Yes,
Yeah.
we all can do better, so much better with organization and systems in our business. Yes. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much again for joining me on Make It Click. This has been awesome. I'm honored that you are my guest today, and I, can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Christine. This is a lot of fun. I know you and I have known each other for years, and you're someone that is close to my heart in so many ways. Yes, we had recently had a client relationship, but I really consider you a friend. So thank you so much for having me on.
And I consider you a friend also, Cheryl. Thank you. Have a great